Ben Shapiro has some opinions. How the turn has tabled on Benny Boy himself. That's right. Ben Shapiro is called the GA grand jury bias. It says jury duty, man. It's the place where 12 people too dumb to get out of jury duty decide your fate.
Trump is going to have one defense, which is that the grand jury was essentially preset, that the bias in the grand jury was essentially preset. You'll recall that there was a crazy lady who was the foreperson of the grand jury in this particular case. Her name was Emily Kors, and she was the witch, I believe, who then went on a national media tour talking about the grand jury workings and was extremely weird. So Donald Trump's legal team is going to...
Your Honor, can we get a vibe check on the grand jury, please? Can we get a fucking vibe check on the grand jury? Your Honor, pretty obvious after this vibe check that we got to throw this case out. Okay? Have you noticed how weird this person is? The vibes are really fucked up. Held in contempt of vibes, yeah, exactly. Objection, she's being kind of fucking a Scorpio, okay? I'm going to say it. She's giving Scorpio season, not cool. We're going to have to, we're going to have to throw the whole court case, really.
They have something to hang their hat on here. Here's a flashback of Emily Kors, the grand jury foreperson, who, again, is a weirdo.
Personally want to hear from the former president.
I wanted to hear from the former president, but honestly, I kind of wanted to subpoena the former president because I got to swear everybody in. And so I thought it'd be really cool to get 60 seconds with President Trump of me looking at him and being like, do you solemnly swear? And me getting to swear him in. I kind of just thought that would be an awesome moment.
Jury duty, man. It's the place where 12 people too dumb to get out of jury duty get to decide your fate. So, yeah, Donald Trump's...
Okay. One thing about the grand jury is that I am going to once again use the same thing that Sean Hannity said last night 8 times over. It's a procedural part of the equation. That's why everybody always says that at the top of the hour there's a 3-minute ad break. Sean Hannity said it so many times last night. Sean Hannity doesn't burp into the microphone, tells you that at the top of the hour there's a 3-minute ad break, and if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. It on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that's me. You could also get gifted a sub. That's what Sean Hannity said. That's not what I said. Here's a 3-minute ad break now, though, unrelated to what Sean said. Okay. Actually, what Sean said was, a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich. It's a legal cliche. This is a lawyer cliche. Part of the reason why is because a grand jury indicting you doesn't mean you're going to jail. It just means you're going to court. Okay? So it doesn't matter how fucking quirked up that white girl was. You know? Ultimately, that quirked up white girl did what she was supposed to, and now it's in the hands of another jury. So, Ben Shapiro shitting on how biased the grand jury is interesting. Another interesting take that Ben Shapiro had, I thought that he actually talked about the situation, but I guess she hasn't. Yeah, a grand jury is just supposed to review the evidence and decide if there's even enough to justify making you have to defend yourself in court. That's what the grand jury is there to do. They're not like actually the judge, jury, or executioner in any capacity beyond that. I do want to, is Ben Shapiro's new video out yet? Weeby? Is Weeby in the chat? I feel like he follows Ben Shapiro very closely. I suspect that there would be, like Ben would have actually made video on this. This is a pretty big situation. Oh, 5 hours
So
ago.
they did it. They finally did it. As long awaited. Fannie Willis is the DA in Fulton County. For a couple of years, this has been coming. She's very fond of charging RICO cases. She is now going to charge Donald Trump and 18 alleged co-conspirators in a giant RICO case. According to the Associated Press, Donald Trump and 18 allies were indicted in Georgia on Monday over their efforts to overturn his 2020 election loss in the state, with prosecutors using a statute normally associated with mobsters to accuse the former president, lawyers, and other aides of a criminal enterprise to keep him in power. It's a nearly 100-page indictment. It's 98 pages. It details dozens of acts by Trump or his allies to undo his defeat, including beseeching Georgia's Republican Secretary of State to find enough votes for him to win the battleground state, harassing an election worker who faced false claims of fraud, and attempting to persuade Georgia lawmakers to ignore the will of voters and appoint a new slate of electoral college electors favorable to Donald Trump. In one particularly brazen episode, it also outlines a plot involving one of Donald Trump's lawyers in accessing voting machines in rural Georgia County to steal data from the voting machine companies, supposedly. Although, of course, the question there is whether they were looking for evidence of the possibility that the voting machines had been hacked or something. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis announced the charges last night.
Today, based on information...
All right, we saw this. All right. The real shit that I want to hear from Ben is what his takes are on this, because you know his ass is not going to be supportive of indicting a former president. Why do I know that? Because I saw his tweet, and usually Ben, much like myself, will tweet out exactly what he's going to say eventually in his video. He says, whatever you think of the Trump indictments, one thing is for certain. The glass has not been broken over and over again. Political opponents can be targeted by legal enemies. Running for office now carries the legal risk of going to jail on all sides, which is really interesting. Of course, made more interesting when you are a fan of Ben Shapiro for a very long time, and you know that he wrote a book specifically about indicting a president. That's right. He wrote a fucking book about it. Here it is. The People versus Barack Obama, the criminal case against the Obama administration. But fear not, there is more. Here is a passage from it. Prosecuting the Barack Obama administration, the crime of conspiracy has typically been defined at the state level as the agreement of two or more people to commit a crime, where he specifically details out that you could use conspiracy as a mechanism to indict Barack Obama, which is not to say that legal responsibility does not exist. In 1946, the U.S. Supreme Court legally established a principle of command responsibility. He goes into detail. In 1970, in an attempt to curb organized crime in general and mafia in particular, Congress passed the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. What? Are you telling me that Fannie Willis was a fan of Ben Shapiro? Maybe she read your book, Ben. You think Fannie read the book? Because it seems like she's acting out on your desires. Now, you might say, well, Hassan, that's a Democratic president. They're illegal. Democrats are illegal. They're voted on by illegals. Okay, and they are always criminals. I mean, a Republican couldn't possibly be charged with a crime. And to that, I would say, you're right. Except Ben has also accounted for that. America has seen criminal administrations before. Over the course of American history, dozens of federal officials have been convicted of offenses based on corruption, including one cabinet secretary, Albert B. Fall, 4 senators, 2 Democrats, and 2 Republicans, and 31 members of Congress, 25 of them Democrats. Far more have deserved jail time. Presidents, too, have deserved jail time. In fact, it is not difficult to name a president over the last several decades who has not risked prosecution, from Nixon to Clinton, from JFK to George W. Bush. That's right, Ben, in an effort to claim that he was not actually being one-sided on this, did literally say, well, guess what? You know, doesn't matter. I think that personally, for me, I think that it is fine to prosecute all presidents, no matter what. Here's Ben speaking on indictments like he's me back in 2014. This seems like a page out of my book. Okay?
I'm not sure we could indict Washington, but I think that certainly...
I'm sure something was done.
Washington was relatively clean, but if you look at George W. Bush, or if you looked at Bill Clinton, or if you looked at Ronald Reagan, sure. I mean, the answer would be that you could, and people should be wary. I mean, this is sort of the case that I'm making, is that we've become so comfortable with the executive branch of the government abusing its citizens and violating our rights and violating what they're structured to do under the law that we've just become used to it. And if we start treating them as criminals, maybe they'll think twice before they act so criminally in the future.
That is like verbatim what I have said in the past. I'm a fan of indicting former presidents. I'm a fan of it. I think it's great. Hopefully, as long as there is something good to indict them on, which there's plenty to indict former presidents on. Okay? Interesting, however, there is a situation where a former president is being indicted, just like Ben is talking about, for very real crimes that they have engaged in, like Ben is talking about, and yet here he is making an hour-long video shitting on it. That's odd. It's odd, Ben. What happened, Ben? What's going on? This is the equivalent of finding your transphobic takes, what twists life takes. You think this is the equivalent of going back 10 years in time to very clearly document a time and place where I had different opinions on the matter? Do you think Ben's opinions changed? Or do you think the circumstances changed? I never wrote a book on transphobia, you fucking idiot. I didn't write a book on transphobia and defend transphobia and continue to defend transphobia to this very day. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Ben doesn't give a shit about this. He very openly, he didn't have like a genuine and honest opinion back then that changed throughout time and place. Where now he thinks like, you know what, we shouldn't indict former presidents. He wrote a fucking book about it. He wrote a goddamn book about it and defended it because he wanted to justify prosecuting Barack Obama. That was the entire purpose. Okay? It's the same, but totally different. Damn, you're so soy today. I write into twitch.tv. One of the gayest things that I can do is type online in a live stream. One of the soyest things I can do. Like, yeah, man, we're all soy. What the fuck are you talking about, idiot? That's what we're doing here. What do you think we're doing? We're chirping. I'm doing it professionally. You're doing it for funsies. But ultimately, we're all engaging in the same act. We're chirping online. That's all we're doing here. There's nothing fucking, manly about what we're doing if that's what you care about. Anyway. Yeah, I'm soy. What's your point? So are you. Where were we? Curious, did he release the book in like 2016 or like 2012? No, he released it at the second half of the second term of Barack Obama's presidency. That's where he released it. But now he has a different take. Let's take a look.
That's sort of how the indictment reads. It's very long, it's very detailed, and it sort of goes over a lot of territory that has already been trod. They accuse Trump and his alleged co-conspirators of 161 acts. Many of these acts are things as simple as like retweeting things. So if you look at the actual indictment, it actually says that, for example, it accuses Act 28. On or about the third day of December 2020, Donald John Trump met with the Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives in the Oval Office and discussed holding a special session of the Pennsylvania General Assembly. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. So meetings are apparently now illegal, but he called Brian.
Yes, dude. Yeah. Yeah, if you're having a meeting to conspire on fraudulent acts, then then it would be, yes. Dude, he has a Harvard law degree. What the fuck's he doing right now? Like, that doesn't mean your fucking manager at your place of work is going to jail, okay? Unless they're conspiring to do a crime in that meeting. Then, yeah, that meeting would be illegal.
Brian Kemp, he retweeted something from OANN. Right? There are people who are suggesting that those sorts of acts are now illegal. That's not really how this works. So to understand how these
Oh, okay. He's actually shitting on the dumbass Republicans. Okay, never mind. I did not understand. I thought he was actually saying that.
charges work, you first have to understand what RICO is, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, how that actually works. It's a very controversial law that was passed in 1970. Originally, it was aimed at the mafia. And again, the basic predicate for the law is that it's very difficult to charge people who are upper-level gangsters with the crimes of their subordinates. This is why RICO was passed. Originally, you'd have a low-level hitman, and he would get charged with murder, and then he would refuse to rat on his boss, and there was no way to actually try the boss. And so what they did is they started wrapping together the entire criminal organization in an effort to get the low-level hitman to flip on his superior and to get that guy to flip on.
Why do I feel like throwing up when Ben agrees with me? I mean, he's just describing the RICO charges correctly, so like or the act itself correctly, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing.
That was the basic idea. If you indict everybody all together, it is easier to flip all of the associates by threatening them with the highest level charges. That's sort of the goal, right? You charge the accountant with murder, and therefore the accountant, because the accountant is now wrapped into the giant conspiracy, the accountant doesn't want to go to jail for murder. The accountant doesn't want to go to jail at all, and so the accountant flips on the boss. That's what racketeering originally was. It comes from the term racket, which meant an organized illegal activity. All it requires, the violation of RICO, at least on the federal level, and the Georgia RICO statute, which is the one that's being charged, and it does make a large-scale difference, by the way. This is a state case and not a federal case, because what it means is that even if Donald Trump were elected president, he could not pardon himself of any charge for which he was found guilty in the state of Georgia. He could not free himself from that. By the way, any accusation that the Georgia governor, who's a Republican, Brian Kemp, that Brian Kemp could pardon Donald Trump for this is not correct. There's a panel in Georgia that would actually have to sit and decide whether or not he would receive a pardon.
Okay. This part is all right. Get to the point. Get to the meat of it. He's just describing the situation, which he's right.
It would look illegal.
The reason why I'm skipping over this is because, like, I've already said all of these things, and we are in agreement with Ben because he's right. He's just only reciting the law and also telling you truthful things about Brian Kemp not having the power.
Then Jack Smith would be charging that on the federal level, right? He'd be charging him with actual insurrection, which he did not. He would also be charging him with incitement of a riot, which he did not. When it comes to Georgia, the accusation is that Donald Trump essentially wanted to overturn the results of the Georgia election through illegal means. And he was pressuring people to do it through illegal means. And this is a pretty serious charge. Again, I think that it is doubtful that this could be proved in court, but it's also happening in Atlanta. So just like the Washington, D.C. case, this means that you have a local jury.
Oh, God. Okay. Oh, God, he's such a pussy. Okay, Ben is doing the exact same thing that every other Republican is doing. He's saying the exact same thing that every other Republican is saying, except he massages it in between, like actual factually correct information. And then, now, it's not just a dog whistle that Atlanta is black. He's saying Atlanta is black, Atlanta is Democrat, so he's not going to get a fair trial in Atlanta, which is fucking ridiculous. He's saying the exact same thing that Fox News is saying. He's just not dumbing it down in the way that Fox News is. Let's hear what the rest
that is not going to be friendly to President Trump. Now, as I say, I think it's a doubtful charge because, for example, some of the things that are being charged here and some of the people being charged are some of the quote unquote false electors, right? These are people who signed a document saying that they were the duly elected electors of the state of Georgia when they were not. But there's a problem with.
You want to know something funny? I just thought about this. If Trump could truthfully show that Georgia is actually red and that the election was stolen from him, then why is he fucking complaining about being prosecuted in the state of Georgia and claiming that it's actually biased against him because it's a fucking blue state? That would just mean that you can very easily find a jury in Georgia because you clearly won in Georgia, and you're going to prove that, right? You're going to prove that with your Monday announcement. Your Monday announcement is, surprise, Georgia is actually red. Fulton County where the fucking misgivings, the misdeeds happen, is actually red. So if what he's fucking saying, if the state government is Republican, which it is, okay, and if the people in the state of Georgia are all Republican, which is what he's claiming they are, then why are you trying to move the case anywhere else? The fuck do you mean? It's a red state with way more Republicans than Democrats. That's what your claim is, right? It's a criminal conspiracy on the other side, actually. They stole the election from you. In Fulton County, deep red. No, Fulton isn't red. I'm in it right now. I know it's not chatters, but Trump is claiming, fucking claiming that Fulton County had a lot of problems with the way that the election was handled there. It's actually supposed to be red. They stole the election, 11,780 votes. That's my point. I know Fulton County isn't fucking red. And Trump knows it too. You want to know why he knows it? Because he's trying to move it away. Trying to move it away from Georgia. If Trump's original claim that Georgia is red and it was stolen from him was true, okay, two things would happen. One, he obviously wouldn't be, being criminally prosecuted for criminal conspiracy, trying to fucking, change the election outcomes in Georgia. And two, he wouldn't be trying to move it away to a different place. He would not try to move it to a different place if there are real, red-blooded Americans in Fulton County, so many of them that they actually voted for Trump.